Howdy, welcome. When you have a bookshelf and you don't have books going all the way across, they tend to fall over on the end. Well, you need a bookend. Now, you can get those little metal jobbies, but they don't have any character. So I'm going to build some out of wood and see if I can make them unique. Something that somebody will go, wow, that looks cool. Here we go. The board I grabbed is about as cattywampus as they come, but I'm going to make use of it anyway, as I'll be cutting it up into short pieces. I decided to use hickory for these, as it's a nice, dense, heavy wood, and that's an advantage for bookends, since you don't really want them to move when they're propping up books. But it's not uncommon for hickory to pretzel up a bit when it's drying. First off is the miter saw, just to cut this bow in half and make it easier to run through the planer. And that's what comes next. I have this wood because I have lots of shagbark hickory on my property, but it's hard to mill and it's hard on the tools. You can hear the planer is not too happy. And it's not that the blades are dull, these are the first cuts on brand new blades. Not only is it hard, I think the grain structure makes it hard to work too. I always get tear out when I'm planing it. I'd like to get a helical head planer at some point, and maybe that'll do a cleaner job, I don't know. I ran one side through the joiner as well to get one straight reference edge. I'm tracing some figures onto the board using silhouettes I got online and transfer paper, because when it comes to drawing, tracing is my best skill. I'm going to make a few variations on a theme, 3 to be exact, just for fun and to maybe get your imagination going for making some of these for yourself. Once I get them traced onto the board, I cut out that section to take to the bandsaw. And I'll use those other 2 pieces later. I want to split this apart first because I got all 3 figures on here, so I start right into this hickory, and that surprised me. Better slow down. But even going slower, you can still hear the blade is catching and chattering. Like I said, hard to mill. I got the first cut made and tried to keep going, just going very slowly, but I just don't like it. I think it's good, then it snaps and I jump. I gotta figure something out. So off camera, I changed out the coarse tooth blade for a finer tooth blade. Okay, that's much better. You almost need a metal cutting blade for this hickory. It's still complaining a little bit, but the finer tooth blade is definitely better. I would have gone with the even finer tooth one if I had it. This was a little bit narrower blade as well, which helped with these intricate cuts and sharp turns. Probably would have been better if I'd planed the wood for the figures even thinner, or even used a different material. This figure is a little less intricate than the others, so I had a bit of an easier time cutting it out. For this one, I had a cutout, a section surrounded by other wood, so no way to enter it with the bandsaw. I made a few drill holes, and normally I would use a jigsaw for this, but this piece is so small I decided to use the scroll saw, which wasn't great either because they're for much lighter, thinner materials. But it did get the job done. Then I went to the belt sander to give them a quick cleanup on each side. This not only smooths them out, but also removes any leftover pencil, or in this case, transfer paper marks. Then I turned to my rotary tool, commonly known as a Dremel, but this one isn't that brand. I have a Dremel brand, but I'm trying this one out. And I'm using a small diamond encrusted burr to take down the edges. Not really giving them much more than a micro chamfer, just to clean up the frayed edges from the bandsaw and scroll saw. This tool can get into the intricately shaped edges where you can't really get with sandpaper or anything else. With the figures pretty much complete, I need to cut out the main parts of the bookends, the bases and the uprights. I'm making it easy and just cutting everything at 6 inches. So I set up the stop block and cut the second board and those 2 pieces I had left over from the first board, and I ended up with 7 pieces total, which was great because I need 6 and this gives me 1 extra, just in case. I gave those a quick run on the treadmill, getting both sides and all the edges of each piece. I didn't spend much time on the edges. I didn't want to take them down too far, but this hickory can hold a pretty sharp edge, so just trying to soften those a little. Time to bring these pieces together. I debated on how best to make 2 pieces become 1 and finally decided on pocket hole screws, which you can see I already drilled in this first piece. I thought about using brad nails, but didn't relish the thought of the nails deflecting in this wood that is identifying as iron today. There are harder woods than hickory on the Janka scale, of course, but I think the grain structure has something to do with it too. This makes hickory a very tough wood, probably why they use it for hammer and axe handles and such. Anyway, I figured pocket holes that will be hidden on the bottom will make for a very strong joint. I use glue also and clamp them into position so I can drive the screws without the pieces moving around. Something you really need to do anytime you're using pocket hole screws. Then a quick check for square. Looks good. Some glue cleanup with the plastic straw. You can see the boards didn't come out perfectly flat. Still cupped a tiny bit, but they're good enough for these items. Certainly way better than we started with. I started drilling the pocket holes in the second one, and I could tell my tool was getting tired. Well, my drill was slowing down. I thought it had enough to drill the second hole in this one, but nope. It gave up halfway through. Fresh juice. More energy. Much better. Looking for the best fit. Then the same deal. Add glue. Line up. Clamp together. Drive screws. Clean up the squeeze out. Rinse and repeat. I spray paint one of the figures black to make it like a silhouette. I'm making 3 of these in 3 different variations on theme, so I'm not only demonstrating that for you viewers, I'm experimenting myself. I'm not sure how they'd look the best, so by doing them each a little differently, I get to see for myself, but also show you. While the paint dries on that one, I get to putting the figures on the other 2. I'm gluing them on unfinished, and I'll finish them after. I thought about doing 2 different stains on the figures and the bases, and I'll talk more about that later. But for now, I'm just gluing them on. I just add a drop of glue to each contact point and set it on there by eye first. Then check for center with my combination square and double check it straight with my other square. Then I use this little piece of 2x4 just to lay on it to provide some holding force until the glue dries. Then I thought I would vary them a little more by knocking the corners off, which I should have done before I put them together, but I still can get them in the miter saw to cut them. I'm using a test piece as a template to line each one up to get them all the same. That's a little tedious, but it works. I couldn't use a stop block or even mark on the saw because since they're put together, I have to cut two with the saw in this direction and then move it over to 45 degrees on the other side to make the other two cuts because I can't turn them over. But I got them all cut and they look even. For the other one I hadn't glued the figure onto yet, I grabbed a plastic spray can lid that I liked the diameter of and marked the corners to round over. And you'll notice I'm using a finer point pencil for this to be a little more accurate than the crayon size number 2 wood pencil I use a lot. Then I take the corners off on the bandsaw, just so I don't have to do as much on the sander when I take them down to the lines. And this little disc sander works okay for this, but you can see here in a second, it burns the corners. This might be solved with a higher grit disc or a larger disc, meaning a larger machine. But even better would be an oscillating belt sander. Not the flat treadmill style that this machine is, but the one that has the belt in the same orientation as the disc is here, vertically. I had to clean off the burn marks after this on the belt anyway, but this belt configuration isn't good for taking them down to the lines, as you can't really see what you're doing, and there's no table to hold the piece perpendicular to the belt. So now that the base is ready on this one, it's time to glue this figure on. And it's the same routine as the first one. Nothing different. So I painted this little guy black yesterday, and he's dry now. But I sanded off the areas that I'm going to put glue, so that'll stick better. And just put him on there just like I did the others. And we'll wait to hold them in place, and we'll wait for them to dry. So I'm going to stain these with some Minwax Golden Pecan stain. I originally thought of two-toning this one and making the boy a different color stain than the body of the bookend. But this one is already kind of naturally two-tone with the darker heartwood there. So that'll make this stand out. So I'm going to do both of these with the same stain, and we'll see how they turn out. I wanted to give the lighter hickory wood a little richer color, and this Golden Pecan is the lightest stain I've got. I use this on a lot of the wood in the house also. I could use some oil-based polyurethane to amber the lighter wood slightly, but I don't have any at the moment. And this is a penetrating stain, so we'll let that sit on there a bit, and then we'll wipe it off. I left it on there for 15 or 20 minutes to let the wood absorb what it would, and now I'm just wiping off any excess so it doesn't dry pooled on the surface. So I'll give you a couple of tips and ideas on making these for yourself if you want to make some. If I was going to do them over again, I probably I need to find a better way to machine this hickory. I get tear out with the straight blade planer that I have. Might be able to solve that with a helical head cutter, or maybe running them through a drum sander, but I don't have either one of those. So maybe the helical head cutter in the future, or might get the drum sander too at some point. But you could make these really nice with some nice wood like walnut or something like that. Make them really elegant and beautiful. You could profile these edges with a round over or a chamfer. You could sculpt this back into any shape you want. Really customize them, these figures. You could do just about anything with those, whatever you're into. Make them cute, funny, whatever. Because they're more for embellishment and looks than reinforcement. The strength is in this joint here. So other than that, I will probably put some clear finish on these, like polyurethane. I'll probably get some spray and do it that way. I'm also going to put like cork or rubber on the bottom to prevent them from sliding. So that brings us to the end. Thanks for watching. See you next time.